every league that has returned to play has had players opt out. The NBA had players opt out of the bubble. Major League Baseball had some prominent players opt out. A lot of prominent pitchers, but players like Buster Posey, for one reason or another. The NFL, as we've seen, has had opt-outs also. And that's starting, not unexpectedly, to bleed into college football. So, thus far, Virginia Tech cornerback Caleb Farley has opted out. Yesterday, the big news was Rashad Bateman, the wide receiver from Minnesota, who is a projected first-round draft pick. He's opted out. And then Micah Parsons, who's a Penn State linebacker, said he won't play either. He'll just start getting ready for the NFL. And as I've said a million times, and it's worth repeating, anybody that opts out for whatever reason they have, totally respect that. In this, amid the COVID-19 pandemic, if people want to take utmost precautions or whatever it may be, if they choose to opt out, more power to you. You do what's best for you, and that's perfectly fine. One player who we now know will not opt out is LSU wide receiver JaMarr Chase. Not that this was ever up in the air, but JaMarr's father, Jimmy Chase, spoke to Go 24/7 and said of his son, quote, he's going to play the season out. He's locked in with his team, and as long as everyone is healthy, he said he wants to play with his team and his teammates. That's fantastic. He went on to say, quote, he just loves the game. He loves LSU. He wants to finish his career in a positive manner. He also went on to say, when I bring it up, quote, he's like, Dad, I don't even want to talk about it. You know what that reminded me of? In June, we had Ryan Clark on the show. And I wanted to talk to Ryan then, not about as an NFL analyst, but I even told him, I said, I want Ryan Clark, the dad, to come on the show. Because Ryan's son, Jordan, of course, is redshirt freshman at Arizona State. And I wanted to talk to Ryan about having played the game and obviously gone through his own personal health scares, what the conversations were like with Jordan about whether or not they would play. And keep in mind what Jimmy Chase said about his son JaMarr. Quote, when I bring it up, he's like, Dad, I don't even want to talk about it. I have to respect his decision. He's the one that's playing. Listen to what Ryan Clark said back in June about the conversations he and his wife had with Jordan about playing.
And you're going to think this is crazy. Like, we haven't had any conversations.
I don't think that's crazy.
Be totally honest with you. Jordan was in the kitchen one day, and we were talking about, just because it was on the news, about parents allowing their kids to play, or certain kids or certain young men not wanting to play college football. And Jordan said before the conversation even started, if there are games played, I'm playing. And I said, okay.
So think about the mindset of a player, right? So Jordan Clark said point blank before they even had the conversation, if there's games played, I'm playing. So you're going to see a lot of that. So I don't find it surprising at all, but it's still great news for LSU in 2020 to have JaMarr Chase back, because we know JaMarr Chase is going to be a first-round pick, and if he decided to opt out, then he could opt out, and he would still be a first-round pick, and it wouldn't matter. But he said that he's going to play. And this is massive for LSU for a lot of reasons, most notably because you have a new starting quarterback in Miles Brennan, and obviously you would very much like to know that you have the best receiver in college football for Miles Brennan to throw to, which will make his job in transitioning into a starting role even easier. So there's also this really interesting tidbit about what LSU's receiving room is going to look like with JaMarr Chase back and who's after JaMarr Chase. As a matter of fact, I've been asked this a bunch. Like, I think we all know you've got Chase and you got Marshall and you got McMath, but then after that, it's this big question mark. And when Ed Orgeron was off the bench yesterday, the guys did ask him that question about receivers. And the really interesting part, and you'll hear Ed say this at the end, is he wants to play a bunch of guys because next year it's going to be a totally different room.
As many as we can, let them play.
Absolutely.
5 wide, rotate them in there, get those young guys in there, let them play, give them snaps. You know, we're not going to have JaMarr Chase after this year, so I got to get guys ready. But Terrence Marshall, I don't know what he's going to do. So these are the guys I'm always thinking about the future, getting guys ready. Obviously, win now to prepare for the future and get these young guys ready to step in.
So understanding after this year, you're not going to have Chase, Marshall, and McMath as well, who's entering a senior year. Like, you're going to lose your top 3 guys. So you better get some of those younger guys ready. You heard Ed say it. 5 wide, rotate them in. Let's see who can play. When you think about a year ago, LSU had 6 receivers catch double-digit passes. I'm not including Thad Moss or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm talking about wide receivers. 6 wide receivers catch double-digit passes. Jefferson had 111, Chase had 84, Marshall had 46, and then McMath, Dillon, and Sullivan were your other 3. Racy had 17, Derek Dillon had 15, and Stephon Sullivan had 12. So I think you could just get 2 columns, and you could see, okay, well, you had your top 3 a year ago with Jefferson, Chase, Marshall. And very clearly this year you're going to have Chase, Marshall, McMath. Those are going to be your top 3. The question is, who are the next 3? And you've got 2 different groups of 3 players each. You've got 3 returning veterans with Trey Palmer, John Trey Kirkland, and Jeray Jenkins. And then you got 3 incoming freshmen with Kayshon Boutte, Coy Moore, and Alex Adams. For me, it will be really fun to watch which of those 6, because there's going to be likely, just look at last year's season, how it went. You're likely going to, even in that rotation, you can't rotate 9 receivers, but you can certainly rotate 5, 6 guys like that, with Chase and Marshall likely on the field permanently. But will Trey Palmer be the guy? The coaches love Trey Palmer. Will the best player in Louisiana from this year, Kayshon Boutte, emerge in his freshman season and become a 15, 20, 30 catch guy? Possibly. Could he match what Terrace Marshall did a year ago with 46, or will maybe look like what Racy McMath did last year at 17? That, for me, is going to be really interesting. But the other part of it, too, is what does JaMarr Chase do for an encore? Now, I went and looked this up today. The Biletnikoff has been given out every year since 1994. So a quarter century. Bobby Ingram won the first Biletnikoff in 1994, and he did return in 95, but he didn't win it, despite having better numbers across the board. There wasn't a returning winner again until Antonio Bryant, who won it in 2000, came back in 2001 and saw all of his numbers drop. Now, Michael Crabtree and Justin Blackman each won it twice. They're the only receivers to win the Biletnikoff twice. Crabtree won it in 2007 and 2008. Blackman won it with Oklahoma State in 2010 and 2011. You had Marquise Lee win it in 2012 and return in 2013. His numbers plummeted. 118 catches down to 57, 1,700 yards down to 791, 14 touchdowns down to 4. And then Jerry Jeudy returned last year and saw all of his numbers. Well, he saw his catches go up, but his yards, he still had a great season, 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. So 6 times in the history of the award, JaMarr will be the 7th. 6 times has the winner of the Biletnikoff come back for another season. 2 of them won it again, Blackman and Crabtree. 3 of them saw their numbers decline. Marquise Lee, Antonio Bryant, Jerry Jeudy, but Jeudy still had a really good year. And only 1 saw his numbers improve but not win it, and that was Bobby Ingram. So there's history there for JaMarr Chase, trying to become just the 3rd Biletnikoff winner ever to repeat. But history also shows that, generally speaking, when you come back after your Biletnikoff season, your numbers aren't as good. It's a big challenge for JaMarr Chase, and one he appears ready to tackle, according to his dad, who said Chase has no interest in opting out. He will play for the Tigers in 2020. It is, of course, though, worth noting that JaMarr Chase isn't going to have 15 games this year like he did a season ago. The max he could play would be 13 this season, so maybe the per-game average would be better to look at after this year. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.